Rick and Morty Season 6 premieres Sunday, September 4th. And what have you been seeing all over social media with top secret locations popping up around the world? Wormageddon. Does this mean we have to turn ourselves into one of the worms from Wormageddon? Absolutely. Now these worms are freaking huge! Not only do I know this from all the secret locations being revealed on rickandmorty.com, but I actually got to attend one of the locations at the WNDR Museum in Chicago. So I was like, wow! I literally walked in and I was like, that's gonna be me! Rick and Morty launched a global campaign for season 6, and all of the locations were originally like top secret. They were posting clues for people to go and find the location. And what was even cooler was the first person to find the locations, they were giving out these golden Rick heads. You can see them on their Twitter. They are so cool. I'm so jealous. I really want one. Imagine you just walk into my house and there's a golden Rick head on my fireplace. Anyways, once the locations are found, you can actually go to them, and they're all different. If you attend the one at the WNDR Museum in Chicago like I did, it's actually in the retail area, which does not require a paid ticket to enter. And I know the Chicago build is there until September 8th. I'll put a link in the description below in case you want to see the locations and go and check them out. Now, if you go to the Chicago location, you're gonna find Rick and the president in mech suits powered by green hydrogen, fighting a giant alien space worm. Now what's interesting is that even though a giant alien space worm might not be a real thing, green hydrogen actually is real. And you may be wondering, much as I was, what exactly is green hydrogen in real life? Green hydrogen is a zero carbon fuel made from water. Let's refer to our diagram, shall we? Basically, water gets electrocuted to create hydrogen and can then be used to power things like industries, cities, vehicles. Basically, when green hydrogen is used, its primary emissions is water. Green hydrogen is not only helping Rick and Morty rid the world of fictional giant alien space worms, but it's also being used as fuel that can help kill carbon and look after the planet, which is pretty cool. And if you want to learn more about green hydrogen, I'll put a link to whatthegreenhydrogen.com in the description below. For the body, I laid down all the details first, just using the main color that it was, then went back to each section and added its highlights and its shading. I also wanted to make the arms kind of going different directions like they're moving. For the most part, I pretty much heavily concentrated on the arms first, getting all the highlights and shading done and getting them to look how I wanted them to look. Also not forgetting small details like the little purple spikes on the arms. Now when it comes to painting them on my body, since I only had a limited amount of space because I only have this much of my arm, and I wanted the body to still be wide enough for the mask that I was planning on creating, I didn't really have much room on my chest, so I had to make all of the worm's arms onto my arm. When it came to the claws on the worm, I wanted to make sure that they weren't going to blend into the background, since I was going to be painting everything around this black to blend into a black background. And the claws are also dark. So in order to avoid them blending in, I kept the base of them dark, but then faded them out into a gray body paint. And highlighted them, of course. I love my highlights. Once I was done with all the details on the body, it was time to outline everything using black body paint. A tedious, but also a very satisfying process. It makes all the rest of the colors pop and also just draws your eye to the body. When it came time to figuring out the mask, we needed a mask, eyeballs, paper, some markers, scissors. I laid the mask down, traced out where I roughly thought the petals of the mask were going to be. I held them up to both the mask and my face as I was going along and just trimmed them as I needed until I got the shape that I wanted. I then traced that shape onto a piece of foam, cut that out, and measured again to make sure it was everything I wanted. Let it be known, between me and you, it was not measured to the way that I wanted it to be. So I had to perform a little bit of surgery, if you will, on the mask after I had it glued later on. Wasn't a big deal though, everything was fine. I also used green foam to outline what was gonna be the underside of the petals, making sure it was a little bit bigger than the main inside piece. And I used my heat gun to kind of shape it a little bit so that way they would turn in just a smidge, because you know, like, it's not like that, it's like, I also needed these pieces to be red, and I figured the best way to do that would be just to spray paint them, so I had to spray paint them outdoors. While those pieces were drying outside in the absolute hottest weather ever, it was time to paint some eyeballs. Many eyeballs, to be exact. I figured the easiest way to paint these would also be to spray paint them. I put them on those little wooden dowels, spray painted them, waited for them to dry, which was quicker than the petals just because they're smaller, and hand painted red eyeballs onto all of the eyes. Each eye also has these little like legs around them. So I took sheets of blue foam, measured around the eyeball, and cut that to create like the outer part of the eye. And to create these guys, I measured out pipe cleaners, cut them, and stuck them inside of the foam. Having foam eyeballs was like key to this mask. Once the primer on the outer pieces was dry, I actually decided I was going to hand paint them red instead of spray painting them. I then stuck them to their backing, measured them on the mask again, and I was like, yeah, that looks great. Glued them down, they were a little bit large. And then I didn't get it on camera, but I actually did take the top piece off and just cut the bottom a little bit just to make it a little bit shorter. It ended up being fine. You wouldn't have even known if I didn't tell you. For the mouth area, I created a little black foam triangle just so it would stand up a little bit. And then to fill in the black in the center, I decided I was going to marker the entire thing instead of just painting it. I don't know. But hey, it worked. The worm also has a mouth on the outside of its mouth. I guess I should say it has lips. And I created that by rolling out a piece of foam clay and then painting it purple. The teeth inside the mask were actually also a fun little adventure because they're just spikes painted white. Upon further examination of my worm reference, I noticed that the eyes were actually pretty detailed. So I went ahead and added in the wavy pupil that it has, highlights and veining throughout the eye, and also just some highlights in the pupils as well, just to make it look a little more alive. And then it was time. Time for the battle of Rick and Morty with mech suits powered by green hydrogen and Wormageddon.